Now, when a marriage breaks down, should the financial assets be split evenly in two? A multimillionaire banker has been told to hand over half of his fortune to his ex-wife. Randy Work had argued he was a financial genius, but the appeal court ruled his ex-wife Mandy Gray had made a different but important contribution to their marriage. So what message does this send to stay-at-home mums, and is their role as important? Well, we can talk now to Amy Harris, who is a family lawyer at the firm Slater & Gordon. Also the CEO of the Women's Resource Centre, Vivian Hayes, and Garanka Goodell, who is divorced from her husband when she was a stay-at-home mum. Thank you all for coming in today. Amy, I think the first thing we need to sort out is special contribution. What does that actually mean?
Well, we're not entirely sure. It is a very difficult concept, and it's very difficult for people to argue whether they should be given special treatment in a divorce settlement because they've earned a lot of money. The cases that we've had show it's a very difficult argument to run. It's very unlikely for people to be successful making that argument.
Do many people come to you and say, I want to put this in?
Contribution is something which is always taken into account, but in most cases, for most people, needs are going to take priority over contribution. So it's only going to be in very exceptional cases where a special contribution is going to be taken into account.
Now, Garanka, in your divorce settlement, you got just under 50%,
yes,
didn't you?
Yes.
But nonetheless had a huge impact on your lifestyle and how you could live.
Yes, it enabled my daughters and me to continue to deal with, to start with a divorce. However, it didn't last long. My ex-husband paid for only 5 months and then just arbitrarily stopped the payments, and by this point I had no more money to continue to pay the lawyers. So I have fought my own case in court as an applicant in person, well, for the last 6 years.
So when you hear these very wealthy men, often men, doesn't always have to be men, I guess, but often wealthy men saying, well, actually, I went out to work, I did the hard work, I earned the cash, it shouldn't go 50-50. What do you think? Well,
a homemaker's role is an unpaid role, and I always say that I have worked, I was just not paid for it. I supported my husband in all of his decisions when it came to career. We have a disabled daughter who needs my support to this day. Both of the children, we invested a lot of time, and it was our joint decision for me to stay at home. I never meant to stay at home. I have a degree, I had a career before marriage. It was never my intention to be a stay-at-home mom. It just happened. Once our daughter was diagnosed with Fragile X, we made a joint decision that I should put my time into her and the family, and I did so. And as a matter of fact, at least twice my husband got promotions and was told by his bosses that the promotion was there due to the fact that he had a solid marriage, that his mind could concentrate on the business and on work, and he didn't have to care about work. And he would always introduce me to his bosses, and always with pride, and somebody that they appreciated too.
Vivian, I want to bring you in, because what sort of message does this send out to mums? Because as we heard there from Garanka, many mums, I've got lots of friends who would love to go to work, but we've got small kids, husbands work long hours, and it's just not financially viable.
Well, I think any marriage is based on teamwork, and the contributions made by the different parties may be different, but to undervalue unpaid work is unacceptable, and actually women with their unpaid work contribute billions in their work to the state and also to husband. And as Garanka said, without her there at home, her husband wouldn't have had the career that he had, and so it is a team effort, and it should be recognised as such.
In ordinary cases, not in the super rich cases, generally, is that recognised by the courts?
I think it is, actually. Contributions taken into account, and it's not just financial contribution as we might ordinarily think, it is contribution to family welfare. So the courts, in the cases that we've seen recently, have made it very clear we shouldn't discriminate against the homemaker. Their role in most cases is going to be equal to the role of the financial earner as well. So overall, it's very difficult for gentlemen, typically, who earn a lot of money to argue that they've made an acceptable contribution, and that should be taken into account. In most cases, it won't be. It's going to be regarded as equal to the role of the homemaker as well.
If we're looking at the super rich, though, some people may be watching this and saying, if your husband is worth hundreds of millions of pounds, does it matter if you get less than half? You're still getting an obscene amount of money that surely you can live on.
Well, I think it's the principle, because obviously when decisions are made in courts, they can set precedents. And if we look at it like that and women receive less because it's millions anyway, what happens to ordinary working class families if those kind of decisions are the direction of travel? Then those women are going to lose out.
Like this decision, I believe it was last year, perhaps even 2 years ago, to very wealthy women who managed to obtain permission to go back in time and claim the monies that their husbands had withheld information on from the government and from them and from the courts. And that was a really good precedent. I remember in the press it was reported as women who, they have so much. I mean, really, was 40 million not enough? And the idea was, no, these women actually went out, spent money, their own money, on solicitors to gain this right for all the women across board, so that even I can go back now in time if I find that my husband had withheld information and say, hey, you withheld information at that point.
So how far should this go? For example, if a woman has the children living with her after a divorce and has to take a low-paid job so that she can be there for picking up from school or whatever it should be, should she then receive more than half of the husband's income because they're struggling and they've got the kids with them? How far do you push it?
I think what has to happen, in my view, is that what we want to see is a fair deal for women. And so the cases, as there is discretion allowed in our courts, then it should be viewed upon the merits and what is going to be the impact on the mother and the children, because we want to see a fair deal for women across the board.
And just to reflect, the legal position needs take priority in all cases. They're going to take priority over contribution. So if somebody needs more than 50% for that reason, then that should be reflected in the financial settlement they get.
Thank you all for coming in, Amy, Vivian and Goranka. Thank you. Now, coming up,